the hit podcast, H.I.T, Human Resources, Insurance, and Technology. I'm your host, Toby Kennedy. As we do every week, we're dropping into your feed on Tuesdays with what I hope are bite-sized, digestible, but super fun, super interesting conversations going on in the space. This week's episode will be absolutely no exception, so I'm going to dive right into it. Super excited. This week's episode is brought to you by Montage Insurance Solutions. And without any further ado, I bring on a very, very wonderful guest, Austin Ollis. How are you, my friend?
Doing pretty well. Good to be here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming out. So real quick, we're talking before the cameras heat up, and you're like, oh, man, I was in the Air Force. I was a missileer, and, you know, Dad was a football coach, and I did rugby, and I did all these things. I wrestled my whole life and stuff. And I was like, yeah, no doubt, man. You keep fit, and just really, really great to have you on. Mm-hmm. So I say all this to say sort of, you know, fitness and regimen is kind of a background in your life. And if you don't mind, maybe kind of give the audience a quick kind of tour of sort of who you are and kind of what you do now and how you got in the chair.
For sure. Thanks, Toby. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on.
Yes.
This is awesome. So my name's Austin. I started a health and wellness company called Fly Bodies after I got out of the active duty Air Force.
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
Still a reservist. So I'm
cool job.
Yeah, no, missileer job, not the coolest.
Cool name.
I was gonna say, yeah. People are like, whoa, that's really cool. Like, you sit underground, and so you monitor nuclear missiles. But
it's a cool job. Yeah, I gotta be honest. You're trying to discount it. That's a cool job, dude.
So, but after that, I was actually,
you know, I sell insurance.
Also cool. Much needed.
Yeah.
I mean, your job actually we don't actually press the button or turn the keys. So you
Me neither.
Get to do,
yeah.
You get to do your job.
Same. Your words, not mine, dude. Same. Good.
But anyways, after being a missileer, I came out to LA and I was an acquisitions officer. So that's what brought me out to LA.
Yeah.
I've always kind of been into health and wellness. If you ask any of my friends and family, they'll be like, yeah, Austin enjoys that space.
We're also on video, so if anyone's just listening on Apple or Spotify, feel free to check out the YouTube because Austin's clearly still into fitness.
Trying. I try to stay fit every now and then. My fiance would say it's your duty.
So,
So you have to do it. That's why it's my job. She's gonna never let me change careers.
Good. Yeah, no, smart. Yeah, good.
But yeah, I came out to LA 2015 and did the acquisitions thing for about 4 years. And then I really wanted to get into the health and wellness space just because it was something that I've always been interested in. And so I actually went and worked for a company called Body Spec, shout out to them. Yep. And actually got my toes dipped in, talked to a lot of customers, essentially. They're a DEXA scan company and basically talked just like this, one-on-one with a lot of people to hear what they had to say about health and wellness. Yeah. And honestly, after that, I started Fly Bodies. Yeah. So Fly Bodies is a health and wellness company where we help employees with their mental and physical health. Yeah. And then also try to bring in some good culture and community building, strengthening that aspect as well. Because we really think that that is a big part of the health and wellness aspect of being in a company, right? Everybody tries to do the health and wellness thing on their own a lot of times. It's tough, right? But when you're on a team, as you were, LA soccer,
play soccer. Thank you very much. Yeah, go Lions.
When you're on a team, you just feel more, have more motivation to want to be healthier, right? So we try to bring that same aspect to the company level, and specifically, kind of our niche is faculty and staff at schools. Both my parents were educators, and so that's kind of the tie-in I have there. Yeah, we really try to make it a team-like atmosphere, right? Where we do. Workouts in person at the actual school or the business. And then we do mileage challenges that are in team atmosphere.
And I guess really quick to break in, just because...
Yeah, sorry, that was a long rant.
No. But what I want to say is basically, number one, like full disclosure to the audience, this is not like a paid segment. It's not like you're like some sponsor. I'm bringing you on because we believe in you. Further full disclosure, we use you. And I'm sitting around in my world and having multiple clients say, this is the most different, the most effective, the most awesome approach to wellness, we've ever had. And I was like, I can't keep hearing these quietly. Yeah. I can't keep hearing these quietly and not bring the guy on camera. So, as you're talking about some of this stuff, and it maybe sounds like, wellness in general, maybe we'll keep drilling down further. But I just want the audience to know, like, the reason we have you in the chair is we've seen it firsthand, and it works.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you saying that because it's definitely something where we, don't have like a huge marketing team to tell people about us yet. So it's something where the people that we work with really find benefit in doing these types of team-based activities, right? And the feedback we get is like, hey, I haven't done something this fun at my school in the 25 years
Or
I've
business,
worked here.
right?
Or
'Cause
business.
it's not specifically just for schools, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we'll go to a school or business and they'll say, man, this was just so much fun
Yeah.
and motivating. And like you said, we do it a little different. We don't just like, hand off the mileage challenge to them and just go, go do your miles and get as many as you can and do it.
Here's your app. See you later.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
We've formulated it because we want that engagement. We want
Yeah.
that motivation throughout the entire time. And so we continuously refine our process because we know it takes a little nudge here
Yeah.
and there to get people to continue to do it. So like, we're not just a company that's just trying to like hand off the process of like, all right, you do this on your own. It's like, we want to be there for you because it's super helpful.
So you become a very involved extension of this whole project as opposed to some sort of in the box, buy it and you do DIY, right?
Exactly. And that's, I think a lot of times scalability wise, it's kind of easier to just set a platform and let people do that. And we're still trying to, do that scalability because we do have an app and we are able to scale that way. But we also look at it as like, oh my gosh, like we have a trainer that can use the app, that can go to the school, that can do that. So we're almost like a mobile wellness gym, to be honest. And so that's how we kind of look at ourselves, is like anytime we bring somebody on, we want that dual interface where we have something that's software related, but we also have the interface with the human aspect because we think that's a huge piece.
This reminds me a little bit of like, when P90X was kind of sweeping the world. Maybe I'm dating myself because it was, 20 years ago or whatever.
Great program.
Yeah, the Tony Hords of the world. But
huge.
like, it's like you can have someone on your screen sort of yelling at you to do your burpees, and that's good if you're intrinsically motivated. But also to couple it with, bringing you guys out. So talk to me a little bit about literally like, how does that look? Like, how does it go?
Great question. So most people have that same question. They're like, man, this is different, right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's either everyone's all visual or virtual, or they're all in person. Either you go to a gym. So when we talk to a company or a school, basically we come up with the best times that we can get a trainer to come to that school.
Like literally the times of day.
Exactly.
Day of week. Okay.
And so for schools, it's kind of nice because they have a pretty set schedule.
Yeah.
Either, we do it in the morning at like 6:30 or 7, or And so done many of those. Austin has been to those. Practice what you preach. And then either around 3 or 3:30, maybe a little later after school gets out.
Yeah.
For a company, it might be early in the morning or right after work, about like 4:30 or 5, something around that time frame. And so we have that discussion with the HR director or, the head of school or somebody.
And when someone comes out and does something, what does that look like? Because that's the thing I get so much positive feedback. What the heck are you doing with these people?
For sure. So some schools have actual like weight room equipment. We can use that weight room. But if they don't, we actually bring in kettlebells, jump ropes, we bring in some bands and stuff like that so that we have that. So we're almost like a mobile little gym.
Yeah.
And we end up keeping that equipment at the location so that we're not like hauling it in every time. And it's a little space. So we don't need too much room to keep that equipment, right? So we put it in a little corner of an area, we bring it out for the workout, and then we put it back. It's easy setup, and all you need is a little equipment in order to do this stuff. What I will say is, every time we do a workout, I have somebody come up to me or up to a trainer and say, I wouldn't do this if it was just me.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of the big thing that goes back to
the team thing
and the nudge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of people would be like, I wouldn't do this on my own. But since you're there and you're holding me accountable and I know other people are going to be there, I want to be there.
Yeah.
And so that is just having a facilitator to do that and bring them to the actual place. Because what I will say is, people could drive to a gym that may be 10, 15, 20 minutes away, but that's an extra 10, 20, 15 minutes.
It also turns out they don't.
Exactly.
They could.
Exactly.
They could grow wings and fly out of this room too, but it just doesn't happen.
100%. And it's just like one of those things where you're just like, guys, we have to meet people where they're at.
100%.
And that's where we're really trying to be innovative and like, hey, we can make this work, but we have to be able to get the, buy-in from the people first. And because everybody at the beginning has questions. They're like, do people really come to these workouts? And they do.
Yeah.
And it's those people that actually have those questions. They enjoy it the most.
Yeah.
Because
they've been flirting with the idea of trying to get there.
Exactly.
And it's like your company ironically being named Fly Bodies, but I'm thinking of Jim Collins' analogy. I don't know if you've ever heard him talking about, but he's talking about like a big flywheel, like picture like a big wheel.
Right.
That almost like the kids used to spin on sort of a thing. And to get it going, it's inertia and it's so hard to start. Once it's going, it's tap,
exactly.
tap,
and then it just feels normal.
That's right.
And it's just part of the environment.
But getting that thing going and spinning, starting that ball, starting that thing. So that's where I love your guys' approach that says, hey, look, we actually really we get physically in there, tap them on the shoulders, and we get them going.
And even to that point, the mileage challenge we do also give that little nudge as well. If people aren't wanting to do the workouts in person, because sometimes they just don't have the facilities, or sometimes they just don't have the time, and sometimes they're just remote. So one way to get that flywheel even going, even just a little more tap, is to do a mileage challenge so that they're bringing those teams and they go, oh, working with fly bodies is a great opportunity to bring in something that we may have never done before. And so if someone's not able to do those workouts, they're still able to do, hey, let's do a mileage challenge, so get people moving in general. Because going back to this is the health piece of where we're trying to get people to move a little more and just honestly get health and wellness in the back of their brain just a little more than it would be if they weren't doing something.
Well, that's what I kind of want to talk about here today when you're talking about the different ways to approach it, because what I want to do is sort of pick Austin's brain on the best way to do health and wellness in general. So if you're an employer out there, call fly bodies for sure, but maybe not. Maybe you're in a different area or they're just not a fit for you, or you've got your own wellness challenge, but someone that has successfully done this is still someone we can pick the brain of and say, no matter who you're working with, here's a couple of really good best practices, right?
Exactly.
And so what you're saying is kind of this team thing. So talk to me about, the importance of making the kind of, I don't want to call it competition, but like team and community and friendly competition, and how do you form those teams? And that's a major foundational block that you would recommend in a wellness program.
I agree. Yes, 100%. And one thing I will say is most people's plates are pretty full. So when I say that is like, it takes time for us to like send out the Google form to get those teams ready. And so that's one thing that we have taken onus on of like, hey, how can we take a lot of the work away from the HR director at the company or the school or just people in general, because they have so much going on. So in the beginning, if you wanted to do something like this, hey, you need to send out in advance to get people on board, to get their teams ready, to get this going.
If you were going to start something from scratch, how far out do you start like PRing it or teasing
So
it?
around 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Because they say in marketing, it takes 7 times before somebody really understands like, hey, this is something I want to do. And people are no different in this space. Yeah. It's probably even more because people are like, do I really want to do this? And then once the word gets around like, oh yeah, it's super fun. Maybe you do it once and the next time around they get around, but like around 2 to 3 weeks, because you can't just say, hey, we're going to do this next week. And everybody's just going to jump on board like willy nilly. Cause they're going to be like, maybe they did it in the past and they don't really know what's going on. But 2 to 3 weeks gives people enough time to really,
so 2 to 3 weeks before what? Before we start a steps challenge, or do we
before we start a steps challenge?
Okay.
Sorry. Before we start a steps challenge.
Yeah.
Before we start a steps challenge, we want at least 2 to 3 weeks so that we can get that branding out there of, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what it's going to look like, because it takes a little massaging to get that in there. From a workout standpoint, it honestly, it's up to the
employer, the business, the school,
exactly.
Whatever.
Like, and essentially they can start it usually about a month before or after school starts, so people get settled.
Yeah, so you find a season within the business's arc to where it's not chaos.
Not chaos. Yep. And people are like, oh, we have a lull, we have time to do this, because there's never going to be a perfect time, right? There's never a perfect time to do a mileage challenge. There's never a perfect time to do workouts. Yeah. But there are some lulls in the time frame of where.
Well, I think that's why I love having this conversation now, because to me, spring feels like a really good time where we're like, hey, I maybe tried or started or I gave up on my New Year's resolution, but we're coming up on swimsuit season. So like maybe this April, this is the time to, exactly.
100%. And that's the thing is like, a lot of times people fall off on their things because they're solo, right? Yeah. They don't have that accountability. Right. They don't have that team aspect. And this gives you the opportunity to do that. And what I'll say is like, someone trying to, don't get me wrong, like it can be done within the company, like, but somebody coming in and taking it full force, it gives
Meaning
a different.
Just HR by themselves could do it, but you're saying I come in and augment and really help success.
Exactly, because HR has so much going on too. They have a full plate of stuff. And so we're not trying to add to their plate. We're essentially trying to add a feature that's going to make their lives a lot easier.
What type of participation do you tend to see when it really goes well and you really do it right and you really follow all the best practices? What type of participation can we get to?
Throughout the mileage challenge, the people that sign up, like we had a mileage challenge with Puck National about a month ago, and we
had local Los Angeles-based school.
Exactly, 14 charter schools. Yep. We had about 120 people sign up throughout the entire thing, and about 75 to 80% stayed doing the challenge throughout the whole thing and signed in, updated mileage, and it makes it super easy. And that's the other aspect too. If you have people having to like go online to like input mileage and stuff, they're not going to do it because it's not seamless, right? We have cell phones and trackers now that makes it very seamless that we can do this.
So the app just draws the data automatically.
Exactly. And so then it makes it feel like, oh, I don't have to do much. I have to walk, I just run, and then it's all being done on its own. I don't have to go in, as making it the frictionless part, right? So that's why we have so many people engaged and motivated throughout the whole time, because it is frictionless and it is motivating that way.
So frictionless is a great word, and you're an expert in setting up health and wellness programs. And I kind of want to just go through the nuts and bolts. So you're saying you do at least 2 or 3 weeks notice the employees to start teasing out a big walking challenge. You also believe wholeheartedly in forming them into teams. You believe in the augment of virtual stuff, but also on site. Let's get our trainers out there. Let's get them on site. Is there any kind of extra secret sauce that you want to say, hey, listen, this is something that if you're building out this program, you really want to take note from this podcast?
So I think the biggest thing for HR directors or anybody that's taking on a wellness program is the consistency and having some type of seasonality when it comes to this stuff, right? Because we're not Olympians, right? We're not trying to, is it London? No, is it it's LA 2028? Let's go. Anyways, but the whole point is we're human beings. We're not going to be on 24/7. So having like a seasonality or consistency where you're like, hey, we're going to do workouts a 2-month-long boot camp. And then, in the spring, we're going to do a mileage challenge. And then in the fall, we're going to do another mileage challenge.
So you sort of do micro campaigns?
Exactly. And because as human beings, we're not always on.
Right.
And if, you played sports, you didn't run a season all year, 365 days.
Right.
You had an in-season, off-season, and then preseason, right? And so the same thing goes for health and wellness. And that's what we're trying to bring is like, especially in schools, it's great. They have a great schedule because
literally in the season's almost
exactly. So in the fall, we hit them with a boot camp and then also mileage challenges. In the spring, we come back, boot camp, mileage challenges. And then in the summer, they're off and they have that time away and they kind of do their own thing.
Do you give people stuff? So let's say, there's times where we're between challenges. Is there any type of like, I don't know.
Like workout plans?
Yeah, or even like a diet guide or coaching or accountability.
Totally. So we built our app so that we can interface with people in the sense of sending them stuff. Right? We can send them a workout plan. We can send them like a nutritional guide or a grocery list or something like that. So that's how we formulated the app, is so that we can send those things when you're not in person, right? Because some people have life happens and you can't make the workouts or you can't do certain things, and you have to be able to do something virtually or want to have that opportunity. So yes, we can send workouts through the app or grocery lists and stuff through the app.
I guess my last question, if you're like maybe an HR person that's closer on the spectrum of like the kind of worrywart side of things,
for sure,
talk to me about the wide discrepancy in like physical capabilities my employees might have and any like liability-ish stuff that you might want to address.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, like we've tried, like the mileage challenge, we've tried to make like for everyone, right? Like not everyone wants to come to a HIT workout. To be honest, it's just one of those things where we
high intensity interval training.
So not everybody wants to come to that, but barring some type of ailment, most people can walk. Most people can run, do those types of things. So that's where we wanted to get everybody involved, full engagement. Because like we said, maybe we'll have around 8 to 10 people come to a workout. Well, there's 150 to 200 people that work at
location.
Exactly. Right. How can we get everybody involved? How can we get everybody feeling like I'm doing something that's contributing to a fun thing? So that's why the mileage challenge comes in. Now, don't get me wrong, like obviously people do have ailments, they're in wheelchairs and stuff like that, but we're trying to service the majority of people and bring them into the culture so that you're doing something outside of your work that's related to health and wellness, because you feel just like sports, you feel like it helps.
And you feel like you're part of a team and a community.
100%.
And I feel like when you say bring them into the culture, that's maybe the last piece I want to touch on is I think this can be a vehicle for helping companies shape how employees perceive their employer.
Totally. There's a great book called The Culture Code. And in today's world, we are so isolated because we're in our offices, we're on screens, we are so isolated sometimes that we don't even see some people throughout the day. If you talk to some employees, they'll be like, I don't really know that many people at my company. And so this is a great way to try to get community built in this fast-paced world. We have to adapt to how the world is working.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean 150 people have to come to the workout, but we have to get innovative in how we are getting people to interact with each other.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a little nudge, a little force to be like, hey, we're going to make teams. We're going to do this way. Doesn't mean people are going to be like, oh, we're, automatically, but this is a nudge in that right direction.
Well, you're an Air Force guy, and a wrestler, like this wisdom is it's old wisdom, but if we can bring people together and physically do something a little bit together,
yes,
it creates a deeper
100%.
bond. It creates a deeper kind of, sense of belonging, which I think maybe makes employees a little bit stickier. It maybe makes them think they're working for something that's a little bit different and bigger.
You hit the nail on the head. You couldn't said it better. It's literally one of those things in the culture code. There's a chapter where it's like, do hard things. And even if it's, like even if, obviously in your, exactly. When you're in your company, you're doing hard things from a business standpoint, but obviously doing physically hard things obviously nudges it in the same direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no better point to end on than you saying how right I am. So thank you very much, Austin. I appreciate that. That's all the time we have for you guys this week here on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We're having a ton of fun. We're watching the numbers go up and up. So please keep joining us. Join us every Tuesday. Thank you to our sponsors, True Hue and Excel Health. Thank you to you guys for watching. Join us next week. Join us every week. And until next week, make this the best week yet.